I don't know if any of you else have also noticed this, but if you've been looking at Tectone's uploads recently, he's not been covering gachas as much recently, and he's been branching out to a lot more topics at hand. That can only mean one thing. Our boy has ascended. He has now reached the upper echelons and can now cover stuff as a bigger name in the YouTube space. Now, that's not to say he wasn't always already the biggest name within the gacha space, but he's finally taking the steps to go further and to spread his wings and to no longer be contained in this kind of space. And that's fantastic. Especially because this place has been treating him like shit for ages. But with the celebrations out of the way, we don't have time to waste, ladies and gentlemen. We gotta find our next king. We gotta figure out where to go next. So, without further ado, we need to put together our heads and figure out who will be taking over the space as Tectone is on his way out. The next inauguration is about to begin, and with my channel becoming the same level of success as Sony's Concord, I think I am just recently qualified to be the person to speak on this matter. So with that, I went ahead and I made a tier list, just for the people who I know exactly will steer us in the right direction. Here it is! Now, I know there's a burning question on everyone's mind. Ari, why is Gacha Smack the only one on this tier list? Well, I'm glad your eyes work at the very least and you can see that obviously. So, with those functional eyes, I would like you to feast on the very reason why this man will steer us in the right direction. Boom! Need I go any further? I mean, come on, you're dripping right now. Everyone, man, woman, don't care who, you're dripping right now at the sight of this. I mean, just look at me. If I'm dripping, that should say something. So there's no way you guys aren't dripping either. So I was kind of planning on making a Tectone video at some point or another, possibly like a few videos from now, but after recent events, specifically with a lot of people picking up my Zenless Zone Zero and Power Creep discussion video, Tectone one of them, and him extending an olive branch outward for me to make a critique on him, I feel like it couldn't really hurt to move my schedule around and see where this goes. I originally was just planning to just make that bit you saw at the start, just extend outward for even longer and then just make that the whole video, but I guess it couldn't hurt to do a critique of Tectone, or at least just my thoughts of him. I'm gonna put out this little explanation now, as I feel like it'll help contextualize how this video is going to go down. If you haven't watched my Saint Tontas video, I understand it is an hour long, and it does have some rough edges to it. The whole reason why it was an hour long is because I had been watching Saint Tontas on the regular for about a couple months, and the way Saint handles drama and also creates drama, whether directly or indirectly, was a lot easier to document and follow through. And since I had been watching this stuff consistently, it was easier for me to grab stuff that I needed to get my points across more accurately, or to give a better understanding of my perspective. Tectone, on the other hand, I don't really have that same level as I do with Saint Tontas, and it's based on my observation, he doesn't have that same level of documentation, with some of his stuff more so being personal, involving other content creators and stuff related to like DM leaks and stuff like that. And obviously Tectone has been around for much longer, so it would be much harder for me to get my hand on that kind of stuff. And I could probably do it, but I do video making as a hobby, and I don't see myself making a career out of this for a while. I enjoy my job, and I don't want to spend too much time on one particular topic unless it's something I'm very passionate about. And I don't think being passionate about one individual is really a healthy thing to do. And that's me saying that, having made a 1-hour video of Saint Tontas. I don't have a script for this video in particular, and I don't think I'm gonna structure it the same way I'm doing with all my other videos. I'm just gonna talk about my opinions and feelings on Tectone and just kind of see where it goes. And that's really it, so let's just get started. My initial exposure to Tectone was followed shortly after the release of Genshin Impact. I didn't really know who he was beyond that, nothing about his drama with Arknights or anything else beyond that. As for my opinions when I initially watched him way back when, I was kind of always going back and forth about how I felt about him. I think it definitely had something to do with his more extroverted way of communicating with people and how he presented his energy in his videos. One thing I will admit falling into the trap too with my earlier developmental years within the gacha space is is that I definitely did get swept up in the parasocial nature that is how these games are designed and made. I would get upset when people were making opinions negatively against characters that I enjoyed playing or invested a lot of resources into. Sometimes I would just get upset just because some people would assign roles to characters that I enjoyed into classifications that I myself did not believe them to be into. Yes, I am referring to the Ganyu is a support comment that Tectone made way back when. I was also one of those who would get somewhat annoyed because it kind of created this mental roadblock where my enjoyment from Ganyu as a character was under the notion that, you know, I could play her as a maiden DPS. So when Tectone was saying something along the lines of, well, Ganyu is a support, my very immature way of thinking led me to conclude and start putting words in his mouth along the lines of assuming that 1, Ganyu is a bad DPS, and 2, that I myself, someone who liked Ganyu, was playing her wrong. And you can already see just how bad of a mindset that is almost immediately. And while I've never actually attacked him in any forum space or YouTube comments, I did see his Ganyu gotcha pulls in his video and him losing his 50/50s on that quite frequently. I did kind of smile a bit and think of that as some sort of karmic retribution. And it sounds stupid as I'm saying it out loud, I know, and I'm glad I'm over something like that nowadays. I think I've definitely done a better job of culling that down into a more healthy and manageable amount. Much like with how I appreciate Saint with going hard on other creators when necessary to hold them accountable, I also very much appreciated how Tectone was really trying to drill hard into MiHoYo back then with how they were handling the game, specifically for the more passionate hardcore players. Now, I believe obviously his stance has changed in more recent years. These games need to be played more casually, but I still think to an extent it would be nice if hardcore players in some way were better respected within this space, which just kind of sucks that we're not, especially more lately as HP inflation just becomes a bigger problem across these 3 games. It's fine. We've got more games coming soon. The Hoyo games can either try to adapt back into something more reasonable or just keep hemorrhaging players, and that's just how it's going to be. As for Tectone's content itself, it's something that I go off and on about watching on a regular basis. There will be times where I watch him quite frequently, and there will be times where either his sense of humor or the topics he's discussing isn't really what I'm interested in. I come back around if things appeal to more what I'm looking for. My brother actually very much loves watching Tectone during his time with OTK, specifically on the Steak and Eggs podcast. The way he put it is that he really loved listening to and watching Tectone anywhere outside of his main channel, which I found very interesting. I've never watched Tectone related content outside of the Tectone channel and the Tectone Twitch stream. As I started getting more and more established playing gacha games over the years, since they're much easier to fill gaps of time in, and they're a lot more flexible with how little time you need to actually put in to play them, and also just the low maintenance, I started to get more passionate in wanting to give my thoughts on matters and stuff. And I definitely think I started noticing the gacha cast. I started to develop this interest of video making. My reasoning personally is I kind of just wanted to be a part of the conversation. If you've watched my Zenless Zone Zero and Power Creep discussion, you will know that I used a clip from Total Biscuit. He definitely was one of the better content creators, if not one of the best content creators that we had so long ago. He was crucial in my developmental years in critical thinking and stuff like that. Now, I can be pretty brain dead, but I like to think that there were times where I can think off from Total Biscuit and then go from there. I want to try and structure my content in a way something like that, which is why I try to articulate myself a lot in these kind of videos, and why I love scripting. If you were to just look at the channels we have right now, most of them are fine, and there are some people that are actually really good at that stuff. I think Saranus is probably one of the best in these spaces. What finally pushed me over the line to start making content was actually Saint Tontas's reaction to Boru's video on Arknight's Enfield, because we already have an overabundance of action-based games, but not too many that try to do stuff differently. You know, we've got Girls Frontline 2 and Infinity Nikke and maybe a couple other ones, but as we get more games like Azure Primelia, Anata, Neverness to Everness, we're gonna see a massive oversaturation of action-based games. So I was kind of hoping Arknight's Enfield can try and preserve this style of gameplay. I know Tabaru's video has like much higher analytics than Saints' reaction to it, but I'm still concerned at the idea of just how many people in this space, specifically from Hoyo First Games, the sheer number of them allows them to effectively steer the conversation and steer the direction of certain game developments. I think Arknight's Enfield in style alone should be enough, and then from there it can establish its own niche based on gameplay systems that people don't really have in this space. So I felt threatened in a way when Saint was trying to like push for a more action style, but then was trying to redirect Toparu's energy of keeping people out of the space to just kick Tabaru out of the space instead. I just didn't really feel comfortable with that. I can understand to an extent if Saint thought his reactions were doom posty, but I think a lot of that was just more so hyperbole, just for the sake of the entertainment in the video, you know. And Tectone reacted to the video, and as far as I'm aware, the cliff notes of his stance on it is adding a dodge is okay. And I know Mr. Pokey also reacted to it too, but Mr. Pokey's interest in the video was just more so from like the cinematography of it rather than the actual talking points of the video itself. I'm going on a tangent. So my first video was not actually the critique of the Saint Tontas video. My first video was actually titled, "Is the gacha industry becoming oversaturated?" And the thumbnail was made in Paint. It was just like an image of Lumine and then just a graph, and at certain points of the graph, you know, you would have certain gacha games on it. You'll never see that video again. It was made with an older microphone. I honestly don't even know the point I was trying to make with how I structured that video. It was also quite long too, but just not the good kind of long. I even made a second video talking about the power creep situation in Honkai Star Rail, and my approach to that was just to suggest to make older characters cheaper and more financially accessible. But I don't think that was a good video either. The idea of just simply fixing characters by making them more accessible to pull for is just an insult and a slap in the face to people who spent those same amount of resources getting those characters back when they debuted, and really just kind of devalue their investments. And that one, I don't even think that one got any views, but you know, that's fine. I just unlisted those and just went ahead and just started from scratch. The reason why I unlisted the videos was actually because like a couple of days later, after I made both those uploads, Sarnis came out with a video of her own discussing saturation, and it was just so much more put together. I felt ashamed of my own personal work. I just decided to just unlist them, go back to the drawing board, and see what I could come up with later down the line. Initially, to try and get like a boost in analytics, initially when I first uploaded that video on gacha oversaturation, I noticed that Tectone had like a daily scramble section in his public Discord, and I thought I would just slip that in there, and I honestly wish I didn't, because I just looked like a bad look for me, because it was self-promotion, I mean, obviously, and I'm surprised he even pulled it up and listened to it for a couple of seconds after a couple hours, after like maybe 20 to 30 minutes, when he went back through everything he had to look at and he decided that he wasn't interested in watching. Of course, anyone would be a little upset at not being able to maybe get some eyeballs on your videos, but I just thought, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. Let's see if we can do something differently, and maybe one of these days he will see what I have to say. Fast forward to very recently, and I put together two videos that kind of blew up. It really does seem like drama in the gacha space can really just sponge up anything, no matter how small the channel is, and that's exactly what happened. My critique of Saint Tontas blew up pretty quickly. I also self-promoted in a Saints Discord server with that one, but if I'm being honest, I didn't have to do that anyway. I think the public opinion of Saint from people who aren't in the Wuthering Waves community would have just had that video get picked up by itself anyway, and it kind of allowed me for my follow-up video, which I'm much more proud of, the Power Creep and Elitism and ZZZ. While that one doesn't have as much analytical success as the Saint Tontas one, I'm more proud of how I put that one together. I think there was a better joke delivery, better edited, and there was it was obviously not an hour long, so that was very nice. And that got picked up by both Saint Tontas himself and Tectone actually just watched it recently, which, having been reacted to by a couple big named individuals in the space, has kind of changed my perspective a little bit on React content being reacted to a video that you yourself make. And if I'm being honest, it feels weird. I'm not gonna say it's outright good or outright bad. It feels weird. You definitely do get a boost in analytics and eyeballs on your channel, especially if it's a well entertaining video. People will go out of their way and go subscribe to you and pay attention to what you have to say if you can provide your information or you can entertain them in a way that makes them want to see your stuff beyond someone else reacting to it. There will always be people who will wait for their creator of choice to hopefully react to a piece of content in question, but those people don't necessarily matter. If they choose not to come over here, then that's fine. Just make the most out of the people who do choose to come over here. I think definitely my reactions I've had with my videos have been somewhat of an outlier. I actually got some advice from Saint, or some observations from Saint himself while I was hanging out in a live stream that he was having, and it seemed like both of those videos were got popular more so because they kind of existed as like an open space for people to just kind of go and just start bad-mouthing them rather than people coming for the video itself. Now, I'm sure I'll get a benefit out of that high view count regardless of the context of why they are there, but it definitely did seem kind of weird, especially when I was actually around for when Saint was actively reacting to my own video. EO showed up, and it kind of just turned into a battleground. Kind of strange, like people are it's almost like people having a fight in a restaurant. Like there's a lot of people there for one thing, priorities change, and it becomes this weird stage play in just a moment's notice. The only real complaint with the Tectone react is more so just kind of nitpicks or like agree to disagree kind of situations. I'm sure he absolutely was paying attention to the video. It did kind of seemed more like he just kind of used the video as a platform to just kind of air his grievances with EO, and there were some things about EO that I wasn't even aware of based off of what Tectone had to say. I guess I feel a little bit better. I'm not really worried about having to walk back any statements I made, whether or not there was inaccuracies or not. I'm proud of that video, and I'm never gonna take it down. The only other like nitpick I have, and this is absolutely just like petty and pointless, is obviously just watching the video at like 1.5 speed. I'm not someone who believes that React content is stealing, but when it's kind of played at a 1.5 speed, not to sound harsh, but it gives a feeling like there's a degree of disrespect. I can understand why he did it. He's a very busy man. He's got a lot of stuff to do. I should be happy that he watched my video in the first place, and I am. I can't shake this feeling. I'm just saying this out loud. It's a feeling you just can't shake easily. I'm not going to hold it over him. I'll get over myself in due time, but I just feel like just making this point now. I do look forward to the possibility of one day, with enough time and enough elbow grease and enough passion and work put on my side, that I can definitely reach those higher echelons within the gacha space. I think I'm comfortable being a part of the dirtier side of the conversation, and I know, of course, there are creators who just don't even dip their toes in that whatsoever. I'm gonna try to do my best to not let it get to me and not lose my way on my journey. And with that, I believe I've said all I wanted to in regards to Tectone as an individual and content creator. Like I said earlier, this wasn't scripted and this wasn't really structured at all compared to my previous pieces of content, and I'm completely fine with that. Definitely more rambly. Maybe didn't talk about Tectone as much as maybe you had hoped to. Going forward, you know, I've got plenty of topics I want to talk about, and right now nothing really drama related, but like I just said a moment ago, that could happen at the drop of a hat, you know, even as soon as like I stop recording this one line, but that doesn't matter. Yeah. This was a more personal video, and I'm clocking out.